Where would she get the material and stuff?
Well, I remember one time when they had them white feed bags. You remember that?
Yes.
They used to wash them out and make dresses and stuff out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Grandma used to get
They look
feed
good
in,
too. You remember that, don't you,
Grandma
Mark?
used to get chicken feed in printed material.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah, a
was
lot of them
cheaper
had printed
cotton,
material on them,
She
yeah.
made all our.
I think everybody saved them back then.
I never had a boughten dress till I was 14. My grandmother made them all.
No doubt.
I can remember, see, when Vert G left home when he was, what, 16 or so, and so did you. And then, and Beverly was gone at that time. Glenda was there yet, but she was 3 years older than I was, so I was just kind of down in the lower echelon there, see. But I can remember a lot of nights at home, Mother always was sewing.
Yeah.
Either mending socks or sewing or doing something. That was her. Like we watched TV at night, that was her TV.
Relaxation.
Yeah.
Did she have a machine? A sewing machine?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Old treadle machine.
I remember where that room was too. I don't
Yeah.
remember a lot about the house you grew up in, but I remember that room being right
I
off
can
the
remember,
dining
you know,
room.
we used to have them
With
wool
some
socks, and you know, it was where holes in the heels of them and stuff, you know. And I used to like to. She'd get in there sewing, I'd go in, and she had this ball like this big around with a little handle on it, and you put that in the sock and you bend up them holes and
Darn
stuff,
it,
you know.
yep.
I used to like to do that.
Oh, you used to do it
Yeah.
yourself. So you learned a little sewing yourself then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys learn to cook?
Never,
No.
well, never too much, no.
I never
No,
cooked
the girls
at all.
always did the cooking, and
Yeah.
Now you guys did, you said you had the farm. Now I grew up on a little hobby farm and I can remember butchering time, the whole family got together. I mean my aunts and uncles and the women would, they would start canning stuff while the guys were butchering the cows or the pigs or the chickens, whatever it was. And is that how it worked in your house?
We
Yeah.
used to butcher 1 cow, 2 pigs every fall. And we did that ourselves. And then my grandparents used to come over the next day and they'd come for 2-3 days and they'd cut everything up,
can it.
make sausage, they did everything.
Yeah,
we used
We
to
had
have
a press there, you remember?
sausage press and a grinder and
They ground it by
ground
hand.
the meat by hand.
Yeah.
And
That's what your dad did too.
my dad used to go out butchering a lot for other people too.
Now did you use everything on the pig but the snout?
They didn't throw nothing away.
No.
So what are
I-
some of the things that you remember back then as
Well,
far
I
as...
can remember having to go with him to butchering, and of course you had a barrel there that you had hot water in it. You scald the pigs with first, you know, and then you scraped them. But I can see him yet. They'd put the water in that barrel, and he'd take his finger and he'd go in like this. See, it ain't hot enough yet. Got to have more hot water. And and it was always late in the fall when you did this. It was cold weather, and man, oh man, you used to freeze your hands and your feet and stuff. You know, I mean, it felt like they were freezing, but I never really cherished that job too much.
Now did you make...
You know, a cow has 2 stomachs. And the one stomach, I used to clean it all out. And old Isaac Goldman from Carthage used to give me 35 cents for them stomachs. I don't know what they did with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Do you think they made like a ball with them, or did they use them to? What
No,
would
no.
you think that they would use
They're,
something like that
they're
for?
big.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, yeah, I don't know what if they ate them or what they did with
I
them. I
don't
never
know.
asked.
It was the Jewish people, see,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I
and
used,
I don't know
clean
just
them
what they did with them.
had to clean all the manure out of them.
But just like when we butchered the pigs, Mama or Mother would always take the
Inwards.
inwards and strip them to put the sausage in it.
2 knitting needles. We
2
did
needles,
that for
yeah.
years.
2 knitting needles, yeah.
Out in the gutter in the barn, strip them.
Yeah,
turn them inside out. And
that's
She
what
used to have
that was your casing for the
two
Now-
needles this long tied together, and she somehow would get that down between them needles and string it down. That would clean it.
yeah, that's the way we did it. all the
Okay.
time.
So clean everything out that's on the inside, and then you would dry them or something. You
Then-
must have had to dry them to.
Well, no,
No,
you didn't really.
you
They
keep-
keep them in water
Okay.
until
So
you
they'd
was
stay-
ready to
Oh.
put sausage in them.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Did you guys make other stuff that you probably don't have nowadays? That now my husband talks about head cheese.
Well, it was like I say, it was always late in the fall when we butchered, and the pig hams and the cows, some of the steaks from the cows and stuff got hung in the back shed with a netting over it so the birds and stuff couldn't get at it, and that's where it freeze. And then in the winter time, why you when you was ready for some meat, you'd bring one of the hams in the house, let it thaw out, and eat that. And
We butchered pigs in the spring, usually one, and they'd smoke the ham,
yeah,
and they'd put it in them paper flour sacks, and you'd tie the top right tight together, and we'd hang it in that shed, and it'd last for months without spoiling. That's how they kept meat. And you know how we kept our eggs? When it got cold in the winter, we had a bin there with oats that was thrashed, the heads of the oats. We used to bury our eggs in that oats, and when we went, somebody dig them out.
Really, and
Yes,
they would
sir.
last.
And they wouldn't spoil either.
Uh-huh. Did you have laying eggs all winter, or
Oh, yeah, we had
Okay.
hens most of the time.
always had hens that I can remember anyway.
Hens, pigs.
I always remember a lot of rabbits. Did you eat the rabbits too?
We didn't have much. I don't think we ever had any tame rabbits, did we? I don't remember.
They were just
I
wild
did.
rabbits that ran
I
around.
guess
Then
we
you
did.
didn't.
Had 'em up. didn't
I used to
in
have
the
tame
horse
rabbits
farm.
down in that chicken
Little
house down
shed,
there.
yeah, that's what I remember rabbits being over in that. Or else maybe you were just telling me about the rabbits that used to be there all the time.
Yeah, but I don't think we ever ate any, did we?
Hmm?
I don't remember ever eating any.
Not too much, no. No.
if there was something that you want, what would you want to leave us with for a memory about your family that you would like people to know about?
Well, I wish you'd said somebody else's family.
Why is it good to be a layman?
I remember my dad, he was always pretty well known around the whole country from driving bus and from dealing with cattle and everything, you know. And I remember I knew where every house in the country, I knew who lived there because he knew who lived there, and he'd always say, so and so lives here, so and so lives here, and stuff. And he was quite well known.
Well, he had a big job taking care of those kids on that bus,
Yeah.
didn't he?
And you know,
Now he had a good
very,
job 'cause
very,
I rode on his
very,
bus.
very seldom did they ever have to go to the principal, because they knew if they did, they was in trouble.
Yeah.
Back then, I can remember my dad putting kids off the bus and making them walk
Yeah.
if they didn't behave. Now, if you did that today, where would
Oh,
you
you'd
be?
have charges brought up against you.
You'd be in trouble.
Someone
Yep.
just said the other day that the minute a bus driver speaks to a kid, they get on their phone and they tell their parents.
Yeah.
They get fired.
Yeah.
Well, and then
Yeah.
the parents stick up for the kids.
Right.
and
Yeah.
it's,
They have to have go back on the video.
When I was driving, you couldn't take a kid and set them in their seat anymore because
If
they'll
you,
turn
if you
in.
have
right.
As if you're misusing
If you have
them,
time
know what I mean?
sometime,
With
I
the
could
ones that sometimes
bring them
you can't
pictures up
talk
on
to
the
them, they won't
computer.
listen.
I think there'd be a lot of pictures of Krogan that
Yeah.
would interest you there.
Yeah, well, we would like permission to use some of those pictures if we could to show other people that would be interested in that.
Yeah.
So, if there's a
Some
Are
of
they
them,
on a disc,
some of them
Dad,
are,
or what? How are they? Are they on a disc? Were they
they're on a
saved on a
disc. I
disc?
got a disc of them, and some of them are labeled as to what they are, and then there's a lot of them that aren't.
So you should
that-
be able to just take the disc.
You'd need somebody to
You know, one
Playing
time
with
there
the
was
one.
a stoplight right there in the Four Corners of Rogan.
Oh, stop it.
In Krogan?
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I don't remember
I
that.
remember
Really?
it good.
Remember the one that was in Beaver Falls?
It was well,
Yeah.
right on the end of Shady and Shady
Right there by
Miller.
Miller House?
Easy.
Right there?
26.
and me
Right
say
with this road
12.
here,
And it
it's
was- it
812 in Kroger.
Okay.
It wasn't hanging, it was in the middle of the road.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Really?
Stand
Right
in the
at
middle of the
Four
road.
Corners, right in the middle.
Well, why do you think that went away?
I don't
Someone
know.
probably ran into it.
I saw you ran into it and they just didn't
I don't
replace
know
it.
if they thought it was a hazard. See, John Nortz.
What's his dad's name? I'm trying to think of it.
Yeah.
John Nortz. What
Oh,
generation?
It was John and Herbie and what was her name? The girl. There was three kids. They used to live right side of my grandfather in the next house before you get to where the funeral home is today. And his wife got hit by a car and got killed on that corner.
She was
Okay.
walking across the, you know, like, if you were going up through Krogan, she was walking on the left side. And Peanut Bramhall went up through, it was right in hunting season. The sun, I think, was right in his eyes, and he hit her, killed her.
And is that why the light was put there then, or
I don't
was
know.
it-
The light
I don't
was
know
there
if-
then, or
I
what.
think the
was
light was
before
probably there before that
Yeah.
even.
I don't
Okay.
know if she
I don't
had
know.
the light or if he had the light. I don't remember. But I remember when she got killed.
Remember any other tragedies like that right in town?
Pardon?
Any other tragedies like that you remember?
Well, not that I can remember. I don't know if Nick remembers anything. We were all born after the fires and stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
they were before our time.
Tell Darwin, nurse. Tell him.
Well, Danny, when he got killed, but that was
Did,
years later.
Did you ever know Cyril Hoyer?
Oh yeah, Nick, tell him that story.
Well, the name, he must have hung out at the Belfort Hotel because
Yes,
that's how
he
I
did.
know.
I
The
mean, he
older
never was
names.
married. He was a woodsman.
But someone else brought up Bernie and Howie
Howie.
Nortz brought up the name of Cyril Coyer. But there was one story that they
He was
told
barefoot
that-
all the time?
Huh?
Was he barefoot a
He
lot?
never wore socks. He wore
Okay,
shoes,
that's
but he
what it
never
was.
wore socks. And one time, I was hunting rabbits up past Maynard's Camp. And they were working in there in the woods, and he was running a log loader, and it was 30 below zero. And I went up to talk to him, and I could see his little toe. Right, his shoe was worn right out, and you can see his toe. And he never wore socks or boots.
He must have made an impression on people because
Yeah.
his name keeps getting brought up.
And one time, he worked, you know where the Beaver Right in Krogan is?
Yeah.
That was English's mill, sawmill. And I don't know what they're doing. They had two of these half tracks. You know what they are? They had the rubber tires in front and tracks in the back with a
Okay.
box on it. And he was had something on the box, and where that house is now, where the office was, that was a rock. He backed that thing on the rock, and he was going to dump that stuff in the river. And he backed too far, and she went right down the river, and he went right with it. And he always wore a hat, and always had a pipe. And the first thing that come up was his hat, and the next thing he come up with his pipe still in his mouth.
Now, Cyril Coyer, like, that's not a name that ever stuck here. Was
Yeah.
he like, did he have a family? Was he the only.
He had
Where'd
a
he come
dad.
from?
He had a father. I never knew his mother. I knew his father,
Yeah, what was his name again?
Amy.
Amy, yeah. He
Coyer.
used to live in Belfort.
Huh?
He used to live in Belfort. Amy did, didn't he?
No,
Didn't
I
he?
don't think so.
I thought he used to stay there at the hotel when Hill Norris had it.
No, that was Earl.
I
Stayed
was
there.
thinking old Amy did too.
No, Amy. I don't remember where Amy lived.
Uh,
But Amy Coyer was some relation to Stump Prue's dad.
Okay.
And I don't know just how it
They
was,
know him
no.
too, 'cause I talked to
But
him.
they were related there some way.
Okay.
Yeah.
that Willie, his name was, wasn't it? Willie Prue.
Yeah. I worked in the bot mill when Willie did. And he learned not to call it trim saw. the logs went up a chute, and then they were sawed in blocks. And then they had saws they'd push with their knees with that block on, and it cut a pie shape all the way around. And then there was a guy there that with an axe to them, and they'd hit them, split them apart. And then they'd go to what they called a trim saw. And on a trim saw, they'd take all them corners off, and then they went into the lathe. And Willie, Stump's dad, used to run them trim saws. And I think he only had like one finger left on one hand and a thumb or something.
Thumb and a finger on the other or something like that.
Oh my
And
God.
Morris Golden was the boss then. And Morris would take him off that, and Willie would just beg him to go back on it. He'd go back on it, first thing another finger. I think he even cut his foot one time on there. Had to work his own. Yeah, but
Isn't
he
that
did not want to do nothing else.
That happened a lot at the Beaverite mill. Fingers got missing, didn't they?
Yeah.
My grandma lost a few fingers when she was down there. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you guys did some dangerous work back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you guys made
Today,
mistakes.
if something happened like that today, they'd have lawsuits and
Right.
all of this stuff.
Right?
Right.
OSHA would be there. And
This Cyril Collier never married or nothing, you know. He was definitely a woodsman. But boy, he was tough. Tough man. Yeah. Then my dad moved Amy, Cyril's dad, he moved him down to Mexico.
Oh, did he?
Yes, with that old 28 Chevy truck he had. He put what little furniture he had on there, and I believe it was a horse or a cow he took down. It could have been a horse and a cow, and the little furniture on the back of that truck down in Mexico. And I never seen Amy after that. But he was getting old then.
I can remember one time, one winter, my dad bought up, I think there was 8 horses, right?
Oh yeah, he done, yeah.
They were all
Colts.
colts, between a year and 2 years old.
Yeah.
And that summer, he turned them out in the pasture with a bridle on them and line that was tied to a backpack, you know,
Tied up tight. See?
tied up tight
So they couldn't swing their head.
they couldn't swing their head.
That's how their whole body.
And then that winter, we broke all them horses to drive.
Yeah, me and Burge held him by the head, and he hooked him on the old jumper, and he got on with the lines. And
He got on the jumper, and I got on with him.
Yeah.
Up through the lot we'd go. And when the snow was about this deep, you know, and didn't take long for them horses to calm down.
right, tire
But
out.
once they started calming down is when he wouldn't let them. That's when he mastered them as what he wanted them to do is what they did.
Now, how did he know to do that?
They were brought up that way.
Yeah.
They were brought up to,
See, with their heads tied, that they had to turn their whole body to look. When we put the lines on, you could just pull the lines and they'd steer just like they'd been drove forever.
yeah, they don't just turn their head. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
but I'm
Yeah,
sure
well,
that's
okay,
something
done
that his
that
dad taught him or something
Okay.
when they were kids, you know.
Okay, I've got a question. Now that Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming, what do you remember about the holidays when you were kids? Make a big deal out of it? What were
I
they
don't
like?
think we ever did we?
Certainly not like Christmas
Christmas,
today.
we all went over to our grandfathers.
Christmas, we always went over to Grandpa and Grandma Lehman's.
And everybody went. There was 70-some first cousins.
Was there,
Grandma always would have a meal for him.
Yeah.
wasn't all about the presents back then.
No.
Well,
I guess we all got.
we
a
all
little
got
something.
presents. Mother used to go to Sears or Montgomery Ward catalog sometime, probably in September, October already, and she'd order us a bunch of stuff for Christmas out of that catalog. But the rest of the stuff she'd make.
Yeah.
You know, it was clothes and
It wasn't a. You didn't get a. We never got a lot of stuff like you get today. You know.
no.
Of course, nobody had money back then
Right.
either.
And like Thanksgiving, did you go kill your own turkey?
Thanksgiving, we always went to Grandpa Berkler's to Krogan.
Yeah.
Okay.
up there.
Yeah, you had Christmas tree. Did you make your own decorations?
Yeah.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now my mom talked about getting stuff like maybe an orange or an apple in their stocking,
Yeah.
something like that. Is that what we're talking
was
about?
very
Christmas presents?
common,
I was
yes.
gonna say.
Yeah.
My
Did you
mom,
s-
when she was still doing stockings, not too long ago, when she used to do stockings, we still got oranges in
Uh-huh.
them.
Well, that doesn't. I can't see a little kid nowadays appreciating an orange as much as what you guys probably did back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm right, your mother was Joyce.
Yes.
Yes. I think Emma was more my age.
Uh huh. Yep. Not a very
Emma
well off
was
family.
Glenda's age, wasn't she? Wasn't Emma and Glenda in school together?
I have no idea.
I think so.
Uh huh. No, they weren't a very well off family.
No.
No, no.
And there was Doris and Dorothy older than Emma yet.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, more than that.
And then
many were they?
Neil was my age.
Oh, Neil was your age?
Yes.
Okay.
Glenn?
Yeah.
They were all the older ones because my
Mhm.
mom was the youngest.
Right.
And then Doris was the oldest, and she was 20 years older than Mom.
Mm-hmm.
So there was quite an age gap there.
Yeah.
But they always talked about the younger three being Jack, Glenn, and
I worked
Joyce.
Laura
Yeah.
Mill when your mother's dad worked there.
Okay.
Back then, all he did was run the elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He had problems from the war. He
Yeah.
had shell shock and was gassed.
Yeah.
So he had some problems back then. So.
Today, if somebody was like that, they wouldn't even hire him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The Lewises were good like that.
Were they?
Real good.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if my dad told me this or who, but back when Harry Lewis was first had the mills and stuff, they was building all the power plants, a lot of them old guys that worked for him and then power plants building them, he couldn't pay them. He'd
No.
give them a little bit of money each week just so they could buy some groceries, because that's all he had. But he promised them that he'd always just take care of them,
My grandfather worked with the team over here.
Mm-hmm. And later on in years, I can remember them old guys working in the mill, and all they would do was sweep the floor and stuff like that, where he was
Took care of them.
fulfilling his
Nice.
promise to them.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Don't see that too often anymore, do ya?
No.
No, it's too bad we don't have those same values.
Yeah.
I'd like to go
Yeah.
back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we walked to school going up the other way. It was just 2 miles
Mm-hmm.
one way,
So what was there? Just the river? I mean, the road stopped and the road
Well,
stopped?
yeah,
we had
the
the
road.
road through here.
road by Bruce Ayres went up through
Like,
to
we didn't have
Toy
the
Town.
road.
Right, but
there.
you said before that bridge was there, so
This
there was no
bridge here.
road here?
No.
No, there wasn't no road
There
here.
was nothing here.
Nothing.
No houses.
Farmland.
What was that
Uncle
Yowzy
Eddie's
lived?
farm.
Joe Yowzy.
Joe Yowzy owned all this land.
Yeah.
This was all farmland here.
See, and then when they built the road down through here, of course, Joe was an old Mennonite person, and he saved everything that he could save, And when the state come through and bought this property to put the road down through, he had fences across here. And then he was out there picking up them fences because he wanted to save them, see. And he had a heart attack and died.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's when Addie ended up buying this land then, see.
And
Okay.
Addie was your
Uncle.
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 Okay.
Uncle, yeah.
Well,
And see, Joe Yowzy would have been my dad's uncle.
Okay.
He was Joe's wife and Grandma Lehman were sisters.
Oh gosh.
they were theirs.
They were theirs. Another one was Martha Chafee down here. Harold Chafee used to live just the side of Millis's barn down here.
So then Addison Lehman is who this road is named after.
Addison Ave.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Addison Ave. So this was all.
Right.
Yeah. this
And the
all-
farm is the one right up here.
Right.
That the barn's falling in
yeah,
right now.
yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
They started tearing it down. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing
That
there.
hasn't been a functional farm in a long time, has it?
No. When Eddie lived there, the first half of his life that he lived there, I guess he drawed milk, but then he quit too. When we built here, there was a fence out back here, and Eddie always had horses here, and kids used to go out there giving the horses sugar and stuff, you know. They'd come
What
up.
was the horse's name, Mom? You tell me all the time.
They were all ponies.
What was the horse's name?
Yeah.
Now you can't
Yeah.
remember. She's always telling me all the time about the horse that was out here, and she says it wasn't a very nice horse, but Mom used to feed it sugar, and it liked Mom, so it'd come running when Mom went out there with sugar.
Yeah.
You always used to tell me what the name was. You just like
Yeah,
a
that
couple
one
weeks
was
ago, and I
always
can't remember
mean
what it was.
to Eddie and the boys,
Uh-huh.
you know, but he wasn't to you.
No,
Well-
what was the name? I can't.
Sugar.
That's what I thought.
No, I don't
Yeah.
think that's
You,
what she
you,
called
you,
it,
you
though.
named it sugar.
Oh, I thought it was a different name, but I can't remember what it was.
Guess they called it. Yep, came running to the fence when I went out. And they just couldn't understand that.
Remember Mom always saying that walking to school was quite cold because you'd walk across the trestle in their dresses and it was a little nippy. The wind up the
So
trestle.
you guys you cut across
Well, I
lots
know
then
Mom
across
said
the
she did.
trestle then?
No.
The JP
Didn't you
Lewis
say you used
trestle?
to go across
No.
the trestle?
They really didn't
Yes.
save many time going up to the other school.
Right.
No,
It was easier for them to walk up the street
right up the street.
because they went to school up at the brick building, not over
Right.
here.
Right. But they instead of taking the bridge, she said the
I thought Mom
trestle?
used to say she would go across the trestle.
Wasn't
She would
that
go
when you
across
worked at the
trestle
post
back there.
office? Did you tell me that story? Did she work at the post
She
office?
did used to work at the post
Did you
office.
walk to work?
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah,
when
when
she?
you worked at post office, you